So, would you be able to describe your or your family's experience of language learning?
Certainly my own personal experience of language learning was having the opportunity when I was at secondary school to learn French and German. Of course, that's in the dark ages. I see a huge difference now in the language learning of my 6-year-old son, who is in a class with a range of other children from different backgrounds and different nationalities. So um, he's in a class where he's obviously developing his own literacy in English, but he's learning French. He's in a class with other children from Poland, so the class learns a bit of Polish. He came home with a bit of Portuguese the other day there. So I think the real breadth of our population now enables and creates opportunities within a learning environment in the primary school for really fascinating opportunities for young people to learn at a very early stage and to have their attitudes formed about the importance of being able to have a command of a range of different languages.
And what would you say was the rationale for the 1+2 policy? And how do you see the policy supporting other really important educational priorities, namely addressing the attainment gap?
Well, the rationale for 1+2 is to try to encourage and engage young people with the whole concept of learning other languages at the earliest possible opportunity. We know from all of the research that we undertake that the earliest we can intervene to try to create the best approaches and the best outcomes for young people, the more successful that will be. So the 1+2 approach is designed to expose young people to different languages at the earliest possible opportunity, and to essentially shape their view that that is something that's essential and advantageous to do. In terms of how it all fits into the wider educational agenda, obviously the government is very focused on strengthening attainment and in closing the attainment gap that has persisted in Scottish education for all of my days, and enabling young people to find different ways of trying to close that gap, to find expression for themselves and how they can do that, is a really powerful way of trying to contribute to that agenda. So whether it's about the very core rationale of encouraging young people to have an understanding of other languages, or whether that contributes towards the wider educational objectives that we have within our system, it's a really powerful agenda for us to take forward.
So, what's your vision for great language learning in our classrooms?
What I'd like to see is very applicable language learning, so that young people are able to essentially walk their way through language learning, and for that to be very much a part of their broad general education. And Curriculum for Excellence was constructed in a way to give young people the broadest, roundest education that they could possibly have. And that's been the subject of international commendation, has been the right way to educate our young people. And language learning is at the heart of that, because it gives the opportunity for young people to learn languages with a relevance to the other learning that they're undertaking. So establishing elementary numeracy in English, but also in other languages, is a really important way of young people at the very early stage of their language learning being able to understand and to command language in different ways. And of course, what all the evidence shows us is that the more young people have experience of other languages, the better their learning experience is, and the stronger their learning capability and capacity happens to be. So that's a great strength for us, a great foundation for our approach to languages.
So what are your expectations for the profession, and what sort of support do you think the profession needs or requires to be able to make 1+2 a great success?
At the heart of all of my objectives about the education system are about supporting quality learning and teaching. We will only succeed in our objectives for the education system in Scotland if we do have at our command that quality learning and teaching. And we're working very actively to support the profession in having access to the materials and the interventions that will assist in that process. I'm involved in discussions with our International Council of Education Advisors, who are encouraging us very strongly to reinforce our support to the learning and teaching process within Scottish education, and they recognise that to be a key to the achievement of our educational objectives. So making sure the profession has access to that quality resource to support their the learning and teaching is the crucial contribution we can make to this process.
Our attitudes in Scotland to language learning haven't always been as good as we might hope. What would you say to somebody who thinks that English is enough?
It's not enough. It's just not enough. We live in a really complex, interdependent modern world, and we have to understand and appreciate different backgrounds and different languages, and that will be an advantage for us individually, but collectively, and certainly an advantage for our economy and our economic opportunity. But I think there's also a really important other aspect of language learning, and that is about what it does in itself for the learning process of young people. And when we look at the evidence that's now emerging from Gaelic medium education, for example, we see that Gaelic medium learning, young people schooled in Gaelic medium education have got a much greater capacity to learn and to perform stronger in a whole variety of different educational attributes, simply because they have got that core strength that's been acquired by different language learning. So there's a great personal opportunity, but there's a societal opportunity and advantage, and it gives us a much greater and stronger foundation upon which we can build our own aspirations as a country to be able to connect with and to do business with a variety of other countries if we have stronger skills in languages.
And there's certainly a very strong economic argument for the learning of languages in terms of supporting the economy. But you're absolutely right to talk about a societal need for language learning. What do you see, how can society at large benefit from having people that are skilled in more than one language?
I think what it does is it makes us more connected, and I think if the current debates that we're experiencing, it is crystal clear to me that we need to be connected. We need to have those relationships and those approaches and those abilities to relate to people in other countries and from other backgrounds. So that's a great strength for us, and a great economic advantage. But it also relates to the inherent capacity of individuals within Scotland to be able to make an economic contribution. The stronger individuals are educationally, the more economic contribution they can make. That's why we are so determined to close the attainment gap, because we know there are people of potential in Scotland whose potential has not been fulfilled, and that's been a persistent issue that we have to overcome, and we're determined to overcome it through the Scottish Attainment Challenge and the focus that we have.
Okay, thank you.
So prioritising languages through 1+2 is an initiative that's not without its challenges. How do you feel that Scottish Government are working towards delivering on that manifesto commitment?
We've given a lot of support over a number of years to the development of the 1+2 approach, and the key target and aim for us is to make sure that's embedded within our education system, and that must be the objective that we are working towards, so that the education system as a whole views this as an approach which is part of the fabric of education, able to be readily deployed within curriculum for excellence, and a real advantage to the country as a whole. So I'm very keen to make sure that our education system sees this as a core opportunity, embraces that, and takes it forward as a core part of our curriculum.
So, in a nutshell, what's your ambition for language learning in Scotland, and how do you see it panning out over the next few years?
I want to see language learning a very entrenched part of our education system, one that is reflected in the strength and the breadth of our education system. And how I want to see it developed is that young people at the earliest possible opportunity are exposed to other languages and able to participate in those other languages, but crucially that they have the motivation to sustain that connection, to sustain it over a long period of time. And I think that's perhaps the greatest challenge that we face, that we can command the interest and the excitement and the attention of young people towards language, but we must be able to sustain that, and that's a priority that the government will be determined to take forward.
Thank you very much, Deputy First Minister.
Thank you.